So this is worksheet number 2. I think I can leave it there, so maybe it can be heard. All right, so this is the cardiac conduction cycle. So this has to do with electricity. Yeah, nerve impulses, and as well as kind of blood flow through the heart. So that's why I wanted that first one first, so we knew what we were talking about. Okay. So the first blank to complete this sentence, changes in pressure open and close the heart valves. So when we're talking about pressure, that's a big one. Contraction happens after, or no. So you know how there's systole and diastole?
Yes.
Whenever the heart contracts, this is known as systole. And whenever the heart relaxes, this is known as diastole. Diastole. So you know, like, I think it's 120/80?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's bad. I should know this. So yeah, that's like systole and diastole. So whenever the heart relaxes, I mean, just keep that in mind, that they kind of mean the same thing. Contraction means systole, relaxation means diastole. So the first heart sound is Lubb. So whenever you listen to a heart, it's going to be Lubb Dupp, Lubb Dupp. And the sound of the Lubb Dupp, I didn't draw it up here.
Is it Lubb or Lubb?
As long as you know it starts with an L.
Okay.
Some people say Lubb. What did you say it was? Lubb or?
Like L-U-P or L-U-B?
Oh, maybe it's Lubb. I think you're right. It is Lubb. I don't know. I've learned Lubb and I learned Lubb.
I've heard of it too, but I think on the notes it's L-U-P.
Okay. Well.
Or no.
Is it L-U-B?
No. You're right. L-U-B. Yeah, you're right. And then for the second one, I mean D-U-P.
So it's Lubb Dupp.
Dupp.
Yeah.
Okay,
Lubb
sorry,
Dupp.
I just got you all.
You're okay. So yeah, those are the heart sounds, and that's just the opening and closing of the valves.
Okay.
So, which is interesting because that sound is just those things like Lubb Dupp, you know. So we'll go through.
When it contracts, it closes, and we hear the systole, and then when it relaxes, we hear the distole when it opens again.
Yeah.
Okay.
So kind of like, yeah, when it
Closes. Okay, got it.
Okay. So there's a cardiac conduction system, and usually the conduction system has to do with like electricity.
Okay.
So the first blank is SA node, which is over here. So the SA node, and then after the SA node, which is like over here, SA. After the SA node, you have your atrial, and I don't know how much in depth they want you to get into this.
Okay.
But I just put everything on there just in case, you know.
Yeah.
So you go from the SA node to the atrial syntium, the junctional fibers.
Which are also known as is it the Purkinje fibers? No.
Purkinje fibers are down here. The junctional fibers are up here. But that's a good question. Your AV node is kind of over here. So this is your... And then it goes from the AV node to the bundle of His. Bundle of His. And then the bundle of His splits into right and left bundle branches. So it kind of branches off. And then from the bundle branches, it then goes to the Purkinje fibers. So it's like over here too. And then from the Purkinje fibers, it then goes to the ventricular syncytium. So the word I'm trying to say is syncytium. But I don't know if you, that usually doesn't come up.
Okay.
But that's the last word on your thing.
Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty much how the electricity runs from the heart. It starts at the SA node, and comes down, and then it causes the heart to contract from the ventricles, right? And why is it that the ventricles are contracting?
Because they're closing?
Yeah, they gotta pump blood one way or another. So yeah, so your ventricles, by gravity, blood will kind of drip from the atria into the ventricles, just gravity, and then your ventricles will squeeze in order to push blood out of the two valves.
Oh, the valves. Okay.
Yeah, so blood will be, so the ventricles will squeeze and push blood out, down, kind of like with gravity.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's kind of how the heart works. So number 5, what is a pacemaker of the heart? That would be the SA node.
Oh, the SA node. Okay.
And then which node delays the impulse would be the AV node. So the SA node is kind of like telling the heart to pump all the time. It's like pump, pump, pump. But the AV node, if your heart pumps and pumps and pumps, it won't be effective because your heart needs to pump, but it also needs to fill with blood. So if it's pumping, it's not good to keep pumping,
Okay. So it needs a little rest in there?
Yeah, so it needs a little bit of rest, and that's what the AV node does. The AV node says, wait, you need to take a break. We need to wait for the heart to relax so we can fill with blood, and then we can pump. So that's usually a step people forget is the heart needs to relax. It can't just keep pumping. So this ties into number 7. So a rule of thumb, whenever the heart is relaxing, it is filling with blood. And whenever the heart is contracting, it's pushing blood out. Because it's squeezing the blood out, right? It's contracting. Kind of like how you squeeze your muscles.
Okay.
So it squeezes and pushes. Oh, hello. You kind of fell. I was not smart when I got dressed today. Okay. All right. So in the worksheet, it has little...
Fill in the blank.
Yeah, it has fill in the blanks, but it also has these squares over here. So on this board, I'm going to be showing what happens through the heart with the blood and everything, how it flows. And on this board, I'm going to do the EKG.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Maybe I'll understand it better.
A little bit better, hopefully.
Yes.
So this is that. Okay. So the first box, so fill in the blank, sequence of cardiac cycle. So I'm just going to kind of narrate. So the AV valves are open. So your AV, also known as your atrioventricular, they're going to be open. So the AV valves are open, and the semilunar valves, which are down here, are closed. So these guys are closed. Okay? And it's important, yeah,
Oh,
go on.
so when the ones at the bottom are open, the
Mhm.
ones on top are closed.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
switch.
And that's where the Lubb Dupp comes from, is these opening and closing.
Okay.
So yeah. So you have blood just sitting up here a little bit. So 75% or 70% of blood flows passively from the atria to the ventricles. And what it means by passively is it kind of drips, drips, drips. Okay? And that's why we want this closed, is so that way it doesn't just leak out,
Okay.
So to speak. So it's kind of dripping.
So it's from the right atrium.
Yeah, because this is where the vena cavas come in.
Okay.
So it's dripping from the atria to the ventricle. And then the pressure in the ventricle is going to increase. So pressure is going to increase and kind of, push against you know, because the heart is made of a muscle, but it also has a lot of like nerves and stretch fibers, so the heart can sense it getting bigger, kind of like a balloon, you know.
Okay.
So this stretching causes, so remember when I drew it up here, the SA node? This stretching causes the SA node to fire, and by that it means like electric impulse.
Okay.
So, and what does that electric impulse do?
Sends a note to the brain, or
SA node fires. So the SA node's up here, okay? It's in the atria. It's going to cause the atria to contract.
to contract.
So when the atria contracts, all this blood is going to be squeezed out of the atria and into the ventricle.
Oh, okay, I get it.
So it's going to be squeezed, and it's just all going to go into here, the rest of it. So that's what happens when the SA node fires. So the thing is, in the heart, there's always electric, and then there's muscular movement. Okay? So we had our SA node fire, and then we had our atrius contract, right? So this led to contraction. Okay? So when you look at this, oh no, this person's dead.
Oh.
So P, Q. I need to look at this really fast. Where's number 3? Do you have number 3?
The worksheet.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
I need to make sure I'm drawing. Oh, here we go. P. Okay, so Q dips, R goes up. Yeah. So this is known as your P, Q. I wanted to make sure there wasn't something else here. R. S dips, doesn't it?
I'm sorry, what?
Does S go down again?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
and then T comes up.
And there's your T. So the thing is, this is your PQRS wave. So you're going to have the electric impulse, and then your heart's going to have the action.
Okay.
And so it's going to go from electric to muscular. So right now, the SA node fired, and that was at the P wave. So if you want to have your worksheet number 3,
Yeah.
it's kind of like...
Okay, yes, I can fill it in at the same time.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the P wave. So you have the SA node fire, which is this little lump, and then you're going to have the muscular action right there, which is like when the heart contracts. Okay? So that's that. Hopping back over here, so that's why that first little box right here is P wave. So that's atrial contraction. It's underlined and everything.
Okay.
So when the atria contract, the ventricles are relaxed, okay? So the atria are squeezed, and these are relaxing because they're filling with blood.
Okay.
So usually with relaxation means it's filling, right?
Okay.
So the atria contracts. So with this, you got to remember that the AV valves, so these are the AV valves. Valves up here. The AV valves are open, and the semilunar valves are closed,
Okay.
which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first kind of step. I'm going to erase some of this. So we have that. And our blood, so we're going to think about our blood. Our blood is in here still. Okay? So now we're going to have our ventricles contract. So we're going to have this, the P wave, SA node fires, atrias contract. Then you're going to have your QRS fire. And this is really large because, well, the ventricles are very like muscular compared to the atria.
Okay.
So that's why this is such a big peak. Does that make sense? kind of jumps up there.
Okay.
So you're going to have your QRS, fire, and then like right here is when your ventricles contract. So you're going to have the electric and then the muscular movement. So that's what the box is there, the QRS. So when this happens, when your ventricles contract, the ventricles get really full. Okay? So when they get really full, they're like, we don't want to pop, you know, so to speak. It doesn't really pop. So we need
Can I
to,
ask you a quick question?
yeah.
Sorry for your time. So when it fills from the right atrium into the, yeah, right there,
Mhm.
does it just fill that side of the heart, or does it fill
It does.
all of them?
It does both. This is what's happening here happens here,
Okay.
but we're gonna do the one side first, and then we can do it a dual task.
Okay. I
Yeah.
just making sure. Okay.
Yeah. No, good question though.
Okay.
Yeah. So this happens at the same time.
Okay.
But I thought it'd be too crazy to be like here and here and here and here. So
Okay.
I just usually start. We're just gonna do blood one step at a time
Okay.
first.
Okay.
So
Just wanted to double check on that. Okay.
yeah. So that is that. So when the ventricles contract, the AV valves are going to snap closed, right? Because we don't want, so when the ventricles contract, we don't want blood going back into the atria.
Okay.
Yeah, so our AV valves are going to close. And our semilunar valves are going to open up. Because the force of the contraction causes this to open. So your muscle, so this is, I know this is red, but this is your muscle contracting. It's going to contract and push this blood out. And it's going to push blood out through to the lungs, through the, what is this? Pulmonary.
Semilunar.
Yeah, pulmonary semilunar. So blood is going to go from the pulmonary semilunar valve into the lungs. Through what?
Pulmonary trunk. Oh, pulmonary.
It goes away from the heart. It is in
Vein.
artery. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. Well, usually veins are blue.
That's why I guess.
Yeah, no, it was good though. But usually they're blue, but in the heart it's opposite. Just think arteries go away from the heart, always. Here it goes away from the heart, and when blood comes out through the aorta, it is red, but it's still going away from the heart.
Okay.
So yeah, that happens. AV valves close when it contracts and it pushes through the semilunar, through the pulmonary artery to the lungs, and in the lungs they are oxygenated. Oh, whoops, I skipped a couple steps. So number 2, the ventricles contract, AV valves snap close, and in that little eye, the first eye, chordae tendineae is responsible for that, for this snapping close. It's chordata, sorry. Chordae. So that's what is like the I think it's collagen fibers, or like just collagen fibers that kind of pull it closed.
Okay.
And then and then in the double eye, this is the Lubb sound. When that closes, it's Lubb. Just when you hear the Lubb Dupp, Lubb Dupp. It is the opening and closing of this valve.
Okay.
Or these two valves, but we're just going to focus on this side.
This side, okay.
Okay? So when this closes, that opens. Does this step make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So the next one, we're going to go from the lung to the left atria. And we're going to go, what is this called? it doesn't really go this far above the heart.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't really do that. So,
Is this when the blood has been oxygenated?
yep, blood
After
is.
it's been from the lung?
So this is the blood going from the lung to the left atria. And what is this called? The
Pulmonary, huh? No, pulmonary vein. No.
vein. You're right. You got me. Yeah. So it'll go. So blood will go from the lung through the pulmonary vein to the left atria.
Okay.
And look,
It's closed.
it's closed, right? So now we can pool. Okay.
It fills up.
Yeah, it fills up. So it goes from here and goes all the way through. And then it will go up and into there.
Okay.
So now we're here in the left atria. So number 3 says blood leaves the ventricle and pushes from the ventricle through the pulmonary trunk / pulmonary artery. So you were right about the trunk.
Okay.
So number 3, the answer is pulmonary trunk and artery. So that just happened there. Blood went from the, it went from the right ventricle to the left atria. That's what happens when your ventricles contract,
Okay.
which is just what was drawn up there.
Okay.
I hope this didn't unplug. Yeah, okay. So the ventricles, they're now empty, as you can see. There's nothing inside of them, right?
Yes.
So, this is known as ventricle relaxation. So when they open, you're going to have a T wave show first. So you're going to have the T wave, and then they're going to open.
Okay.
So, T wave. And your ventricles are going to relax because they're not, they need to relax in order to fill with blood. So they're going to be relaxed. And when they relax, these are going to snap closed. The semilunar valves are going to close.
No, the one up there is going to open?
And then so when the semilunar valves close, this is known as Dupp. It's when they close.
Okay.
But then you're right, then it will open. And when that opens, blood is able to pool. It'll drip, 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 passively, until this contracts again. So kind of same thing that happened here, okay? You're full here, you're gonna drip, 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 right? And then you're gonna have a P wave. So when you have the P wave, the atria is gonna contract and blood is gonna be pushed out of it. Okay? So when that happens, this is closed, this is open. And then you're gonna have your QRS for next, QRS complex, and then right here, then your ventricle is going to contract, so it's going to squeeze. It's going to push blood out through the aorta. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
I was thinking.
Yeah, and this is So this is the aortic semilunar. So when the ventricle contracts, this is going to close. Aortic semilunar is going to open, and then you can pump blood to the rest of the body. And that happens when the SA node over here fires, and it kind of happens on both sides at the same time.
Okay.
So, but does this make sense?
Yeah, it makes more sense now.
Okay, I'm going to give you a little quiz quickly. Okay, so over here, so I'm going to leave the little X's. So the P wave fires, okay? What happens after the P wave fires?
That's the muscular
Of what? Atria?
Atria.
Yeah, the top ones. Was I calling those aortas?
No.
Okay, I hope I wasn't. Those are the atrias. Yeah, so the atrias contract.
Okay, atria contracts. Okay.
Okay? The QRS complex, this happens. Then what happens after that? The electric impulse. Then
The ventricles contract.
ventricles contract.
Okay.
And then after your ventricles contract, then you have your T wave, which is the electric portion. What happens here? Whoops.
Well, it makes the ventricles relax. That's when they relax.
And when it relaxes, what happens?
That's when blood is pumped down.
Yeah, it's able to fill.
Yeah.
Right? So we have contraction, we have relaxation.
Okay.
Where do the atrias relax?
Atrias at the first valve? No.
Which one? Which wave? The P wave, QRS, or the T?
After the P?
No, after the P, the atrias contract, but after the QRS, the atria relax.
Oh, relax. Okay.
Yeah, and the reason why there's no like wave for it, like if you didn't have the QRS, this wave would be kind of hidden. It looks kind of like that, or something. But the reason why you don't see this is because the electric impulse to the ventricles is so much stronger that it kind of covers it up, kind of hides it.
Okay.
So just know, yeah. So this is just to show that when the atrias relax, and this is probably, you can see it better in a video. So your heart is always going like contract, relax, because it's filling with blood. And then you have contract, relax, because now this needs to fill with blood in order to put back. So it's always going like this.
Okay.
So yeah, so here your ventricles relax, your atria contracts.
And it fills.
But then at the same time as your ventricle contracts, your atria relaxes.
Oh, okay.
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that makes more sense.
Yeah, so it kind of happens at the same time. I'm trying to think about how to do this. So it kind of goes like this.
When this is released,
Mhm.
that's when it goes to the pulmonary artery.
Mhm.
And then when this is ready to take in more, it comes from the
Vena.
vena cava.
Yeah.
Okay, and those are the ones that are the vena cava and the other one. What's it called? The inferior, superior.
Mhm.
That's where it all starts.
Yeah, is the inferior. So the superior one is I'm your superior. It's the one that gets blood from like the head
Okay.
and the shoulders and everything, and the top part of the body. Inferior vena cava is inferior. It's below, so you get it from the feet, from the legs, and everything else.
Okay, I get it now. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
It goes to the right atrium. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
that makes more sense now.
Do you want to run through it again? Because I did it a second time on this worksheet. Do you want to go through it again? Or are you okay?
I think I'm okay. I'll rewatch it.
Okay. Yeah. There's just a second part just for the repetition, but it's the same exact thing.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I can just go through it in the video.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that concludes worksheet number 2.